Welcome back to this next edition of the Water Matters podcast. Thank you for joining me. It is just me this time. I've no special guest on this podcast, and we're going to try something a little different. So we recently had the pleasure of attending the National Homebuilding and Renovating Show. It's an exhibition held at the NEC in Birmingham. It was on from the 20th to the 23rd of March. And in our day jobs at Graf UK, we exhibited there. First time we've exhibited there in many, many years. It used to be a regular on our calendar of exhibitions, kind of pre-2020. But we haven't been there in a number of years. And so first time back. And so I thought it'd be interesting. And I think actually it will be the first of several episodes over the rest of 2025 that will take you, the listener or the viewer, along with us to some of these exhibitions, some of these home building, construction-based industry exhibitions, to see just how much or how little the subject of sustainable water management is a presence within these construction exhibitions. Because, as we've said right from the start of this Water Matters podcast, our aim, or one of our aims, is to bring the conversation of water to the surface and make sure that it is a factor that is considered, that is talked about in homes, in businesses, in friendship groups, in family circles, but definitely in the world of construction, because in our experience, it's just not enough. So I want to bring you with us to some of these exhibitions and share at these events how much is water being discussed. This is the first one. This is all being done slightly with the benefit of hindsight, I will admit. So there is not as much live footage and live interviews with some of the other exhibitors from this year's National Homebuilding and Renovating Show, because I only came up with this idea having visited the show. So forgive me on that one. But I do think this is going to, even though it's after the event, it's a useful sort of thought to have anyway, because there are a lot of construction-related home building exhibitions coming up over the summer and the rest of 2025. And I do think that it's going to be fascinating to see, to bring you along and use this for some interesting content for this podcast, to see just how much of a presence in the conversation of water, sustainable water management in particular, is part of these shows. And I'm going to tell you now, it's not a lot from our recent experience. That's a bit of I don't want you to just switch off now and move on to your next podcast, but our experience from a week ago would suggest that there could be more people talking about sustainable water management. But before I go into detail, and before I give you some of the interesting facts, figures, and numbers of companies representing good use, sustainable water management at the show, let's just cut so that you see a bit of what's going on. You get a feel for the exhibition itself. We recorded at the show a little clip. Callum Valance-Poole, our head of brand and marketing of Graf UK, he did a piece to camera to share partway through the exhibition. I think it was day 2. With customers of Graf UK, to encourage more people to join us at the show over the weekend if they could. So I'm going to play this video just very quickly. It's not very long, but have a quick watch of this to get a glimpse of what's the show like, what's going on, and let's hear what Callum's got to say.
We're here at the Homebuilding Renovating Show at the NEC. We're exhibiting our rainwater harvesting products and our wastewater treatment systems. This is day 2 of the 4-day show. It's been a good show. We haven't done one of these for about 4 or 5 years, especially the national one. So before we give it a try, meet lots of people to talk about our systems, get to know them a bit more, their projects, and hopefully how our systems can help them with their self-build journey. So it's good to see a lot of people. It's good to see how busy the stand is. The stand's come out really well, so it's looking really good.
It was a good exhibition. We were very pleased to attend, and actually having had that period of time where we didn't take part in, or really haven't taken part in many exhibitions at all over the last 5 years, it was clear to see, and clear from the number of people that our team spoke to over the 4 days of the show, that there are a lot of people attending these shows. I mean, that's the first takeaway. Lots of people attended, and our team ended up speaking with a significant number of people interested in rainwater harvesting and wastewater treatment, and some of our garden products, water butts and that sort of thing as well. And so overall, big takeaway for us, it was the place to be. And so that's sort of a tick in the box, and another reason why we'll be in attendance at a few more exhibitions throughout the rest of 2025. But let me give you some of the stats, because you might be interested, especially if you're listening to this, wondering how much is sustainable water management talked about at these things. There were just over, I believe, 380 exhibitors rather. There were just over 380 exhibitors at the exhibition. And of those 380 exhibitors, there were only approximately 5 that were talking about water at all. And I think only 3 of us that were talking about sustainable water management. And so there were plenty of exhibitors talking about renewable energy, approximately 17. There were a similar number, 19, I believe, talking about underfloor heating systems. A huge number, around 40, talking about doors and windows. It's a very popular subject at the Home Building Show. And then several, I believe 10 or 11, talking about insulation. Because power, solar, renewable energy, constructing homes in a way that is energy efficient is still by far the most popular kind of topic and subject that you will see when you attend one of these home building and renovating shows. But we had a walk around, and I was in attendance on the Friday, and it was pretty striking, just the lack of water-related products or services or content overall. So Graf UK were there talking about rainwater harvesting, wastewater treatment. And then there were another couple of companies that do a very similar thing, Rainwater Harvesting Limited. They were there talking about their rainwater harvesting systems. There's a company called Harlequin were there. Harlequin do water tanks for rainwater harvesting as well, and also oil tanks and that sort of thing. There were a few other water companies that were doing water-related products, so water softeners. So Halcyon water conditioners were there. Who else was there? Water-related. There was a company called Roto Spa. So there were a couple of companies doing hot tubs and that sort of thing. The East Midlands Water Company were there. They do again water softeners and filters and that sort of thing. And then I said about Harlequin and Rainwater Harvesting Limited. And then there was I don't really know how to pronounce this, Yeoman Rainguard. So another water-related company, but essentially they are guttering down pipes, that sort of thing. So rainwater related, but not in the sustainable water management subject or field that we would like to see more people talking about. And so kind of overwhelmingly, there was just very little being talked about in relation to water. And when you've got hundreds, I'm sure thousands of people walking through the door over 4 days, and I don't know the number of visitors, but definitely thousands, tens of thousands of people attending this show. It's a shame, really, that there are only, good in a way from a Graf UK perspective, of course, helpful not to have too much competition at present at these exhibitions, but just from a sort of more broader perspective of how much is water a topic of conversation at these home building shows, it's very little, and I think that was sort of the blindingly obvious and quite sad thing, that if you were going there to talk to companies about how to make your self-build, most of the people attending the show are going there because they're building their own house. They are self-builders, and a lot of those people, thankfully, are looking to do that in a very sustainable way, a very eco-conscious, eco-friendly way. And so they are interested in technologies and services and products that will help make their dream home, their self-build, into the most sort of sustainable, eco-friendly property that they can possibly make. And they would be open to talking to companies and people and suppliers about all sorts of technologies that might save them, save resources, save water, save power, save energy, save the planet. But the reality is that they're not coming away from there having had many conversations about water. And I think that there lies kind of the missed opportunity that exists right now when we're in this situation. And if you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast, especially when Tim Smedley, the author of The Last Drop, has joined me, and we have been talking about water scarcity and the fact that within the next 10 years, we will reach the point that demand outstrips supply, and we will have water shortages in the UK. And we have to do something about that between now in 2025 and then in 2034, I believe, is the time at which has been predicted that we will not have enough water. You'd like to think that anyone building their own home in 2025, going to an exhibition to go and look around and get inspiration and ideas and find out what is possible to include in their self-build dream, you'd like to think that they would be overwhelmed with the number of companies or suppliers or people talking to them about how they can build that house and use as little water as possible. And the reality is, some of them would have gone away from that show not having talked about water once. I'm quite certain, because I don't think we spoke to everyone. And I'm sure if I spoke to Rainwater Harvesting Limited or Harlequin, I'm sure they would agree that they didn't speak to every single attendee either. And so that's a shame, and that's where we're at. And that's also one of the reasons that I'm now inspired to go to more of these exhibitions, especially the exhibitions that do reach the general public, people that are trying to do something good themselves. They're taking accountability, they're taking responsibility for their impact and their the footprint and sort of the impact that they have on resources and particularly water. I'm intrigued as to how much information is put in front of them at these events to help them do what they know is right to do, that we all, probably yourselves included, if you're listening to this, know is right to do, which is to be conscious of how much water we use and find a way to save mains water, use alternative sources, and really not keep adding to this problem that we are walking into, where we will not have enough mains water for the supply that we need. And so it is and was a bit of a shame. I think that there is no doubt there could be more spoken about water management at these exhibitions in future. It was a bit of a surprise that there were so few companies there talking about it and sharing ideas with people. No grey water recycling, for example. It is a challenge to include a grey water. It's a costly solution for an individual self-build, but it is something that some people building their own house will still do. And rainwater harvesting is a very sensible, natural decision, and does really make perfect sense, as do the sustainable, small-scale rainwater harvesting systems, water butts, and above-ground solutions. But there was just a lack of content, which is really a shame. And so I look forward to attending more exhibitions throughout this year and seeing whether that is the same throughout, or whether it is perhaps different at different shows. And the intention is to bring you along, and when we do find these companies that are there talking about sustainable water management, as we wish more people would, we're going to ask them some questions. We're going to ask them their experience of the show, and we're going to look to get some feedback, in particular, from what the attendees, the people that have decided to, go and visit these shows, what kinds of questions are they asking? What do they know about already? What don't they know about already? The level of awareness on this topic. It will be interesting to find out sort of, because so many people are doing so much research themselves these days. But if they've decided to get into their car or jump on the train and go to these big exhibitions and ask some questions and talk to people, it'll be very interesting to find out exactly what are they saying. From the team at Graf UK, the feedback that I received from them was that people that we did speak to, people that decided to come and talk to our team, were reasonably well educated already on rainwater harvesting. They knew, how it worked. They knew sort of what their options were and all the considerations about the tank size, the tank type, and then the various different uses that you can replace mains water with rainwater within and around the home. And so it was interesting to get some feedback from them. But in general, it's just, I think, a missed opportunity, or as I was helped with a couple of AI suggestions, the overlooked element, water sustainability in home building, or this one, which I think I prefer, the sustainability blind spot, reflections on the National Homebuilding and Renovating Show. It's just a real shame that water is just not a topic that you will see. Certainly, water is not a topic that we saw at the National Homebuilding and Renovating Show. And they do these regional shows throughout the country in different locations. And so we will see if that's different at one of those. We will also go to some of the national shows in London later this year and see if it's a different scenario there. But let's hope it is, because especially down in the southeast, where water needs to be even more of a consideration, it will be fascinating to see if more people and more companies, more suppliers, more specialists are talking about how they can help individuals and businesses better manage their water sustainably for the long-term improvement and benefit of the country. So that's it. That's this episode. I hope it was interesting. I hope that I added some value, and look forward to sharing some more information about upcoming exhibitions throughout 2025. Please do visit watermatters.life if you have not been there recently. We have recently just added our March magazine, which is a summary of the March articles and a highlight of 2 of the podcast episodes, which maybe if you've missed them, episodes 9 and episode 10 are the 2 podcast episodes that we highlight through the magazine. But you'll find all that at watermatters.life. And if you have not already subscribed to the email newsletter, please do so. Simply go to watermatters.life, put your email address in, and then on Water Wednesdays, you will receive our fortnightly email newsletter to keep you up to date with all things Water Matters. But for now, thank you for listening. Thank you for following us and joining us on this journey with Water Matters. And we look forward to be back with another episode of the Water Matters podcast in 2 weeks' time. Thanks for listening. See you soon.